improv today. All right, Briana, your type of presentation, Bible message, object lesson, preaching.
It's kind of a preaching council time.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Emphasis, salvation, evangelism, Christian living.
Christian living.
And your target audience, age group.
Trek journey. So.
Okay. All right, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi guys, my name is Briana Golden. I am 18 years old and a senior this year from Mountain Springs Church in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And today I want to talk to you guys about surrender.
You can go ahead and begin when you're ready.
In many ways, life on earth is like a car ride. Before we accept Christ, we're steering our own lives, completely lost, driving up and down back roads in search of purpose. But once we accept Christ, we're no longer lost. We have a purpose and a destination. Unfortunately, many times it takes years for us to realize that we then have to hand over the wheel to the one who saved us. So it's like, someone who is not submitted to the lordship of Christ in life is like a person who is completely distracted by everything else going on around them. Or then, many times, we often fail to surrender it completely. So it's similar to a person sitting in the passenger seat, constantly berating the driver on where to make the next turn. What are you doing? You're supposed to be over here. That's the right way. That's where I need to be. What are you doing? This is the wrong way. Oh my God! Ah! You guys see how ridiculous this is? We're trying to tell the God of the universe, who spoke us into existence and knows every detail of our lives, what the best route is. Or, in the worst case scenario, we're trying to grab the wheel back and steer for ourselves, which just causes erratic swerves and collisions that we then blame on the driver. What's wrong with you for not guiding us properly? And through it all, God's just waiting there for us to realize how much we need Him in every aspect of life. He's waiting for us to realize the importance of complete surrender. Surrender. This topic is talked about so much in Christian circles, but I don't think we really know what it means. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, surrender means to completely give up or forego something, especially in favor of another. It means to completely give yourself up into the power of another, or to relinquish. And I like this definition a lot, but I don't think it goes quite deep enough. I'd like to say that surrender, or giving yourself up into the power of God, means loving the Lord with everything. Everything you have and everything you are. And this is best exhibited through what Jesus says in Mark 12, 30 through 31. He says, "And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the first commandment. And the second, like it, is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself." So then, based on these verses, not only are we to love the Lord with everything, but we are called to surrender by putting that love into action. So today I want to specifically talk to you guys about how surrender means focusing your heart on the Lord, following Him with all your strength, and then seeing that love flood your relationships with others. Now, like any other emotion, desire, hope, or fear, surrender begins in the core of humanity. It starts in our hearts, as exhibited in Proverbs 4:23, which says, "Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life." I think there are two main issues that spring from our hearts. We are either fully and completely focused on loving the Lord with all our hearts, or we're consumed with selfish desires. And we all know what a self-absorbed, prideful person looks like. Ugh. Because even if the things that you're focusing on are good passions and desires that the Lord has given you, if you're using them entirely for your own personal gain, you've got it all wrong. In fact, I think out of all the things that can get in the way, selfishness is the biggest roadblock to complete surrender. And this includes not only the passions and desires that you have, but any fears you might have about the future. Because if you're not surrendering and loving the Lord with all your heart, and you're not willing to go beyond where you're comfortable, is that not also a form of selfishness? This is a concept I've been thinking about a lot this year from the perspective of a high school senior. I'm trying to figure out God's direction for my life amidst all the stress graduating and leaving high school behind. I'm realizing that God wants me to trust him, that he's going to guide my desires, and he is going to take care of my fears. He wants me to love him more than I want to be comfortable. So then, surrendering your heart means loving the Lord so fully that you are first and foremost focused on his will. His will, his way, your pride aside. However, as vital as that first step is, it's completely useless if we forget that love is an action. How many of you guys like bacon? Good. Loving the Lord with all your heart, but not seeing that love spill over into your actions, into your strength, is like saying that bacon is your favorite food, but constantly refusing to eat it. It's pointless, contradictory, and you remain forever hungry for bacon. Unfortunately, we tend to think of surrender as some passive, boring concept where we can sit on our thumbs, say, Lord, have your way, and let God do all the work. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, God is absolutely the driver, but you still have to perform the tasks that he places in front of you along the way. Surrender is like a stop sign as compared to a yield sign. You cannot simply slow down just enough to avoid a collision. You have to come to a full and complete stop before him, hand over the wheel, and then do what he asks you to do next. I think this is displayed really well through what Paul says in Romans 12:1. I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. You know, this is kind of a confusing topic. On the one hand, we're called to completely relinquish control. But on the other hand, we still have a responsibility in the Christian life. And I think the best way to look at this is to remember that you have to place yourself under obedience to God. He's not going to make you do anything. So when you're choosing to obey him and taking that action, it's his light and his power that shines through your actions. I like how Corrie ten Boom puts it. She says, we are moons, not suns. The moon only reflects the light of the sun. We must reflect his light, then we live to his glory. So then, surrendering with all your strength means loving the Lord so fully in your heart that it cannot help but impact the things that you do on a daily basis. And this brings me right to my final point. Loving your neighbor as yourself. Frankly, this is something I've struggled with a lot lately. Think about it. I know, for me, I love myself quite a lot. I mean, you know that you mess up on a daily basis. You know you make mistakes and you fail the people that you love, but does that change how you look out for your own interests or congratulate yourself on a job well done? Me either. And this same love, regardless of faults, is how God wants us to view others rather than ourselves. Are you seeing how it all comes back to laying aside selfishness? And I know, you may not care for your neighbor very much. Or you may care for your neighbor deeply, they just drive you utterly insane. I understand, but it doesn't matter. Either way, we are called to love the Lord so fully in our hearts that that love is displayed through how we treat one another. I like how Paul describes this in 1 Corinthians 13. He says that love is the greatest. Without love, anything we do is like sounding brass or clanging cymbal. Without love, I am nothing. And I know it can be so difficult, which is why I firmly believe that you cannot fully love your neighbor until you fully love God. So as you begin that process, by focusing your heart on the Lord and following him with all your strength, then I think C.S. Lewis has some excellent advice for how we can begin to love our neighbor. He says, do not waste time bothering whether you love your neighbor. Act as if you did. As soon as we do this, we find one of the great secrets. When you are behaving as if you love someone, you will presently come to love him. And then, as you begin to serve one another out of your love for the Lord, he will fill you with that 1 Corinthians love, not just for him, but for that neighbor. Because this is the peak of surrender. Loving the Lord so fully that it floods over and spills onto the people around you. So let's go back to my original analogy. Just hand over the wheel already. Stop trying to grab it back and change his perfect course. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And love your neighbor as yourself. And this is not just a one-time issue in one area of life. It's a constant process, and frankly, I'm not even close to having it done. But I firmly believe that it is so vital to every area of life. I want to conclude with another quote from C.S. Lewis, because I think he sums up this topic perfectly. He says, "Christ says, 'Give me all. I don't want so much of your time, and so much of your money, and so much of your work. I want you. I have not come to torment your natural self, but to kill it. No half measures are any good. Hand over the whole natural self, all the desires which you think are innocent, as well as the ones you think wicked, the whole outfit, and I will give you a new self instead. In fact, I will give you myself. My own will shall become yours.' And then, as you begin to love the Lord with all of you, everything you are and everything you do will begin to follow that process of surrender